Chapter 2 Brothers in Blood POV Luciano. We had a plan, solid, tactical, and, if luck favored us for once, survivable. But I knew Drestin wouldn't play fair. To most, Drestin was the stuff of childhood ghost stories, dark forests that whispered, skies choked with ash, beasts twisted by raw, corrupted magic. A place where maps ended and nightmares began. But those of us who studied the truth understood that the front lines weren't haunted, they were poisoned. And only the Royal Vow, a sacred magical pact sworn by all 7 kingdoms, kept that corruption from spreading. Each kingdom had its part to play. The first kingdom, Solaris, ruled with radiant authority and divine right, its bloodline traced to the original sunbound magi. The second, Kaer Thorne, governed the skies, cities soaring through cloud seas, lightning-forged armor in tow. The third, Volkari Dominion, was all stone and fire, deep beneath the mountains, where rune-bound blacksmiths carved living weapons. The fourth, Nymire, a kingdom of arcane scholarship and forbidden texts, where even whispers could cast spells. The fifth, Zir'Rai, belonged to the beastkin, tribes of shifters whose bond with the wild ran deeper than blood. The sixth, Velden Hollow, was a land of illusions and secrets, veiled in glamours, where every word might be a trap. And then there was the seventh, Drestin, a kingdom in name only. It hadn't had a royal family in over a century. It existed solely to act as the barrier between the void and the rest of us. A ravaged war zone where volunteers went to die and to keep the rest of the world from falling apart. That's where our mark was, Aurelia Von Tempest. No magic. No known allies. Too many unknowns. Too high a reward. And now our greatest obstacle might not even be the girl. It was the commander protecting that cursed front. A shadow of a man. The Shade Commander, they called him. A myth who forged the elite squad out of exiles and ghosts, turned the unworthy into war heroes. Some called him Ruthless. Others called him the Saint Commander for the way he protected civilians even at the cost of his soldiers. He was dangerous because he believed in something. I slung my pack over my shoulder and secured my bow. Daggers at my side, maps and spell scrolls tucked into my coat. I stepped out of my room and nearly bumped into a wall of tension. Drake. 6'5", built like a fortress and currently frozen. He stood in the hallway, staring at the portrait of Aurelia. The volatile bear shifter, the one who usually smiled at the thought of blood, looked haunted. I cleared my throat. Brother? He jumped. Actually jumped. What? Luciano? My eyes narrowed. What's wrong? Nothing. His voice cracked. Why would anything be wrong? I just didn't expect a picture of a child to be attached to a mark. She's not a child. She's 22 sons. And we're not killing her yet. We observe first. I know, he muttered. She just looks innocent. Until you get to the eyes. I don't know what's in there. Anger, sorrow, maybe both. Can someone be born a villain? Or are they made? And if they're made, who stole her childhood and turned her into a monster? That stopped me. Drake, the walking embodiment of rage, talking like a philosopher? Something wasn't right. His fists had been clenched since I found him, and there was recognition behind his eyes. I stepped closer. You recognize her? No, he said too quickly, then softened. I don't know. Maybe. She just feels wrong. She felt wrong to me too, but not because of her face. Because everything about this mission smelled like a trap. I placed a hand on his shoulder. Then let's go find the truth. But tread carefully. We can't have another Domenico incident. He winced. You're never letting that go, are you? You decapitated half the city guard. I did the right thing. And caused widespread panic about a rogue shifter on a feral rampage. I didn't say I did it right. Just that it was right. I snorted and turned toward the circle room. Time to prepare the portal. The runes had been drawn hours ago, each line etched with deliberate precision. Chalk, ground bone, and silver spell dust shimmered faintly along the stone floor as I tuned the ley line threads. Fingers hovering inches above the circle. Power hummed beneath my skin coiled, impatient but obedient. For now, I was halfway through the incantation when a familiar, unwelcome sound slipped into the chamber. A whistle, lazy, off-key, mocking. God's help me. Don't step in the circle, I said flatly, eyes never leaving the glyph I was stabilizing. Of course, he did. Silas crossed the boundary like rules were a polite suggestion, boots scraping directly over a rune I'd spent 20 minutes balancing. A dagger twirled above his head. Caught in a lazy loop of wind magic that stirred the air just enough to make my spell lines twitch. That grin wide, sharp, unapologetic spread across his face. Chaos incarnate. A walking joke with a knife hidden behind every syllable. Still playing with chalk and sparkles, huh, Lucy? He drawled. Step back. He didn't. Instead, he tapped the outer ring with his boot, deliberately grazing the etched symbol. The rune flickered in protest. Oops! I finally looked up. Slowly, unamused. I will banish you to the center of Drestin if you cross another line, I said calmly. Naked. Promises, promises, he replied with a wink. The dagger spun faster, wind licking closer to my sigils. The lay threads shuddered, reacting to the disturbance. What's the worst that can happen? I explode into glorious gore while you all bask in the warmth of silence? Don't tempt me. I tightened my control, jaw aching as I forced the magic back into alignment. One misstep, one careless fluctuation, and the entire circle would destabilize. Silas knew that. He always knew that. He crouched beside me anyway, invading my space like it was a sport, peering at my work with theatrical interest. Wow, he said softly. So serious, so intense. Has anyone ever told you that sarcasm wrapped around anxiety makes you sound like a constipated librarian? I swear, Silas. I'm just saying, he continued, unfazed. You'd be easier to love if you smiled more. I glared at him, letting a fraction of my power bleed into my eyes. You'll be easier to love when you shut up permanently. He laughed a sharp, manic sound and flicked his fingers. The dagger froze mid-air, hovering directly above the central glyph. My heart slammed against my ribs. Silas, I growled, voice dropping low. Get out of my circle. For a moment, just a moment, I thought he might push it. His eyes gleamed with mock innocence, lips twitching like he was weighing exactly how much chaos he could cause before someone stopped him. You're no fun, he sighed at last, straightening. But he didn't move. And that was when I felt it, the shift in the air, the subtle pressure of another presence approaching. I was seconds away from blasting him back into a wall when another voice cut cleanly through the chaos. That's enough. Alistair. Cool-headed, unshakable. The kind of man who didn't need to raise his voice because the world had already learned to listen when he spoke. He stepped into the chamber with measured calm, boots silent against the stone, silver sigils along his coat catching the low light of the runes. The air shifted the moment he arrived like the room itself exhaled. Power recognized power. Drake followed a half-step behind him, massive frame filling the doorway. His expression gave nothing away, but his eyes tracked everything: Silas's posture, my hands, the faint tremor and the spell lattice humming beneath our feet. Always watching, always ready. Silas, stop antagonizing him, Alistair said mildly. Luciano, ignore him. Focus. He started it, Silas muttered, folding his arms like a petulant child instead of a dangerously gifted arcanist standing inside an active portal circle. Doesn't matter. I dragged a hand down my face and turned back to the floor before I decided murder was the most efficient solution. The final rune glowed beneath my palm, warm and volatile, responding to my pulse like it was alive. One mistake here, one sloppy intention, and the portal wouldn't just fail, it would fold us inside out. Thank you, I said tightly. I've only been trying to keep us from getting ripped apart by portal backlash while he reenacted a comedy sketch on the perimeter. Silas opened his mouth, probably to say something clever and infuriating, but Alistair beat him to it. Everyone has their role, he said, tone dry. Yours is keeping us alive. Finish it. I exhaled slowly and sank deeper into the spell. The chamber faded at the edges as the arcane structure snapped into place in my mind coordinates, layered over leyline vectors, anchor points locked to my wards. The ruins beyond Drestin shimmered in my inner sight. Broken stone, dead magic, silence. Or what should have been silence? Drake snorted. You two kiss yet, or should we leave you alone? Don't encourage him, I muttered, tightening the spell core. The runes brightened, lines sharpening as excess energy bled off exactly where I told it to. Clean. Controlled. Silas smiled slow, sharp, but stepped back from the circle. Relax, I like you better when you're brooding anyway. I ignored him. The final sigil clicked into alignment with a sound I felt more than heard. The portal ring flared, silver blue light spiraling upward like liquid starlight pulled into a vortex. Portals set, I said at last, straightening. My heart hammered, not from fear, but from the familiar edge of exhaustion that followed precision magic. Coordinates lead to the outer ruins, Just past the Drestin no man's land. Should be abandoned. Should be, Alistair echoed, eyes narrowing just a fraction. Good job, Luciano. Let's move. We stepped into the circle together. The world held its breath. For one perfect second, everything was still the hum of the runes. The balanced tension of the wards, the smooth pull of transit beginning to take hold. Then it shattered. The spell buckled violently, like something had slammed into it from the other side. A brutal pulse of energy tore through the circle and punched the air from my lungs. Pain flared across my chest as I was thrown backward, boots skidding across cracked stone. No. The runes fractured, glowing lines spiderwebbing outward before snapping entirely. The anchor points screamed as they failed. I felt my wards collapse one by one, ripped apart with surgical precision. Darkness surged in, thick and ravenous, swallowing the light, the floor, the sound of Drake shouting my name. No! My stomach dropped into nothing. This wasn't drift. This wasn't instability. I couldn't even scream as the void closed around us, cold and deliberate, like a hand around my throat. Fuck. This wasn't a miscalculation. This was deliberate. I knew it. This was a trap.